Hello everyone, and welcome to my Sister Wives For You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Kody Brown stood in the dimly lighted living room of his Flagstaff house, his hands buried deep in the pockets of his faded trousers. The weight of his financial woes weighed down on him like a physical force, with each unpaid payment and approaching deadline adding to his rising worry. Janelle sat on the edge of the couch, arms crossed, her expression a mix of annoyance and tiredness. The tension between them was palpable, like a silent storm that had been building for months, if not years. What had begun as a relationship based on common goals and mutual support had devolved into a labyrinth of mistrust and unmet expectations. Now, Kody was asking for something Janelle was unsure she could provide, not just money, but a leap of faith she no longer felt capable of taking. The Brown family, formerly a large polygamous unit portrayed on the reality show Sister Wives, has seen better days. Their relocation to Flagstaff, Arizona, was intended to be a new beginning, an opportunity to rebuild after years of financial stress and interpersonal conflict. But the reality was far from rosy. The family's finances were disorganized, entangled in property transactions, unpaid taxes, and the expenditures of running many residences. Kody, the patriarch, had always been in charge of the family's big ambitions, whether it was buying land for their ideal compound or investing in dormant companies. His charisma and vision had taken them far, but with bankruptcy looming like a dark cloud, Janelle thought his promises were false. "Kody, I don't have the money," Janelle explained, her voice steady but stern. She leaned forward slightly, her gaze locked on his. "And even if I did, I'm not sure I'd give it to you." Kody's cheeks reddened with embarrassment and desperation. "Janelle, I'm not requesting a handout. I'm asking that we work together, as we always have. This is for the family and our future." Janelle shook her head and squeezed her lips into a narrow line. "That's what Kody always says. For the family. But every time we put money into one of your schemes, it's like tossing it into a black hole. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep trusting you with our money when you've proven time and again that it's a gamble." The words hurt, and Kody flinched as if they were a physical blow. He paced the room, raking his fingers over his thin hair. He wasn't used to being questioned and doubted. For years, he had been the one making the decisions, the one whose lofty plans were supposed to bring the family to success. However, the reality was undeniable. His decisions had pushed them to the brink. The family's Flagstaff properties, purchased with the intention of constructing a cohesive home for all four wives and their children, were draining them dry. Property taxes, utility bills, and mortgage payments had accumulated, and Kody's attempts to manage the obligations had only made matters worse. Janelle was correct to have doubts about him. Kody had made a number of financial mistakes over the years, causing her trust to deteriorate. He once invested extensively in a speculative real estate project in Las Vegas, only to have the market crash, leaving them with only a portion of their investment. Then there was the failed attempt to start a family business, a nebulous, ambitious endeavor involving online sales that never took off. Janelle had always agreed to his ideas, digging into her own resources or working extra hours to keep the family solvent. But now that her financial stability was at danger, she was drawing a line. "I'm not saying I don't want to help," Janelle said, her voice softening slightly. "But I have to protect myself, Kody. I need to safeguard my children. I can't keep bailing you out when I'm not sure whether we'll make it through this." Kody stopped pacing and turned to face her. "Do you think I don't care about the kids? What about you? Everything I've done is for us. All of us. Janelle, I'm trying to keep us together. If we lose the properties, we will lose everything we have worked for." Janelle's eyes narrowed. "Whose fault is that, Kody? You campaigned for this action. You advocated for these attributes. You said it would be our legacy, but all it has done is leave us in debt. I trusted you, but now we're drowning." The allegation hung in the air, weighty and unmistakable. Kody opened his lips to argue, but no words came. He knew she was correct, at least in part. He had planned the move to Flagstaff with the goal of creating a cohesive family complex where all of his wives, Janelle, Christine, Mary, and Robin could live in harmony. However, the reality had been more messy. The land they had purchased was pricey, the construction expenditures were exorbitant, and the family's income, derived from the reality show and several side hustles, was insufficient to cover everything. Worse, the spouses' relationships had worsened, with disagreements over money and Kody's attention causing schisms that were impossible to repair. Janelle had always been the responsible wife, balancing expenses and ensuring bills were paid. While Kody dreamed large, she faced with the day-to-day challenges of supporting their unorthodox family. She had worked as a bookkeeper, completed freelance tasks, and even sold real estate to augment their income. However, her patience was running thin. She'd given so much to the family, sacrificing her own financial security to support Kody's dreams, and now she faced the prospect of losing everything. "I've been looking at the numbers," Janelle explained, taking a notebook from the coffee table in front of her. She flicked it open, showing pages with orderly rows of figures. "We are behind on 3 of the properties. If we do not pay our taxes on time, they will cripple us. And then there's the credit card debt, $20,000, Kody." How did it even get so high? Kody's shoulders fell. He didn't have a satisfactory explanation for her. The credit card debt had grown over months of little, frantic charges, groceries, utilities, auto repairs, that they couldn't pay for right now because their financial flow was locked up in the properties. He persuaded himself it was just temporary, that the reality show would be renewed, or that one of his side projects would eventually pay off. But his hopes were vanished, and the reality was staring him in the face. "I'm working on it," he responded hesitantly. "I've got a lead on a new project, something that could turn things around." Janelle gave a bitter laugh. "Another project, Kody? Like the last one? Or the one before that? I'm finished with your projects. I need something real, something I can rely on." Kody's jaw stiffened. He despised the sense that he was failing as a spouse and as a man. He had always taken pride in being the provider, the one who could keep the family together through pure willpower. But now, with Janelle staring at him as if he were a stranger, he felt his identity slip away. "What do you want me to do, Janelle?" he inquired, his voice rising. "Do you want me to give up? Sell the properties? Walk away from what we've created?" "I want you to be honest," she responded. "I want you to quit pretending you have everything figured out when you don't. I want you to quit asking me to believe you when you've given me several reasons not to." The remarks cut hard, and for a moment, the room became silent. Kody looked at Janelle, truly looked at her, and saw fatigue in her eyes. She wasn't just upset, she was tired. Tired of bearing the consequences of his mistakes, and tired of being the one who had to clean up the mess. And for the first time, he wondered whether she was finished, not only with him, but with the whole family. The Brown family's polygamous lifestyle had always required a delicate balance of various partnerships and shared wealth. But money had a way of exposing flaws in even the most solid foundations. For years, Janelle had been the glue that held everything together, ensuring that the bills were paid and the children were fed. But now, with Kody's financial errors threatening to sink them all, she wondered if it was worth it. "I'm not saying I'm out," Janelle finally responded, her voice becoming softer. "But I can't do this alone. If we're going to make this work, you must step up, Kody. You have to show me that you're serious about fixing this." Kody nodded, but wasn't sure what that meant. The solution sounded simple, but the reality was overwhelming. They were in debt for tens of thousands of dollars and had no apparent path to repay it. The reality program, which had previously served as their financial lifeline, was no longer a stable source of revenue. And the family's other ventures, small enterprises, online sales, and Kody's infrequent motivational speaking engagements, were insufficient to offset the difference. "I'll figure it out," he murmured, his words sounding empty even to him. "I'll find a way." Janelle did not respond. She only glanced at him, her expression unreadable. For the first time in their marriage, Kody felt a gap between them that he wasn't sure he could bridge. It wasn't just about the money. It was about trust, about promises made and violated, about a future they both believed in but couldn't see clearly. As Kody exited the room, the weight of Janelle's comments remained. She didn't simply refuse to give him money. She also refused to offer him her faith. And without that, he wasn't sure how to go. The family he had worked so hard to create was slipping through his fingers, and for the first time, he wasn't sure he could keep it together. Over the next few days, Kody devoted himself to finding a solution. He spent hours on the phone, contacting banks, lenders, and anyone who could provide a lifeline. He approached old contacts, presenting half-formed concepts for firms that could generate rapid cash. But the reactions were usually the same: too hazardous, too late, and insufficient collateral. The fact was stark. They were on the verge of bankruptcy unless they received a substantial injection of cash. Janelle, meanwhile, was taking her own measures. She had always been the practical one, able to look at a problem and find a solution. She began by reducing spending, canceling subscriptions, and cutting back on non-essentials. She contacted a financial counselor to help her go through the family's complicated finances. And she began researching choices for herself, ways to preserve her own assets, to ensure that she and her children would not be left penniless if the worst happened. She didn't ignore Kody or the family. She did it deeply. But she'd spent too many years risking her own safety for his goals. She couldn't do it any longer, not without some guarantee that things would change. Janelle returned to her notepad one evening as the sun fell below the horizon, creating sweeping shadows across the Flagstaff countryside. She had been crunching figures, trying to figure out how to make things work. The reality was grim. Even if they sold one of the properties, the proceeds might not be sufficient to cover the bills. And selling would entail giving up on the dream of the family compound, which had kept them anchored to this location. She considered Kody's plea, his conviction that they might still make it work. Part of her wanted to believe him, that the man she'd married all those years before still had the vision and determination to see them through. But another part of her, the part that had witnessed too many broken promises, knew better. Trust, once destroyed, was difficult to rebuild. And Kody had broken it too often. As she closed the journal, Janelle made a decision. She refused to give Kody the money he requested, not because she didn't have it, but because she couldn't afford to lose it. She'd aid the family in her own way, by taking control of the finances and making the difficult decisions Kody seemed unable to make. It was not what she had hoped for when she joined this strange family years ago. She believed in Kody's vision of a shared life based on love and mutual support. But somewhere along the way, that vision was buried beneath the weight of poor judgments and unfulfilled promises. Janelle scheduled a family gathering for the next morning. Not just with Kody, but also Christine, Mary, and Robin. If they were to survive, they would have to work together as a family rather than as a divided group of individuals. She explained the figures, the debts, and the truth of their situation. She didn't sugarcoat or try to cushion the shock. And as Kody tried to interrupt, offering another half-baked suggestion, she raised her hand. "No more plans, Kody," she replied. "We have to deal with what is in front of us. If we don't, we'll lose everything." The room was quiet as the weight of her words settled in. For the first time in a long time, the family focused on Janelle's realities rather than Kody's dreams. It wasn't the future they had imagined, but it was the one they had to face. And as they began to discuss, prepare, and address their situation, Janelle sensed a glimmer of hope. Not for the great aspirations they'd once shared, but for something smaller and more tangible. The opportunity to rebuild, not as a family defined by Kody's vision, but as one founded on honesty and mutual responsibility. The journey ahead will be lengthy and challenging. There would be more disagreements, difficult decisions, and periods of uncertainty. But for the first time in a long time, Janelle felt like she was in control, not just of her finances, but also of her own destiny. That, more than anything else, gave her the motivation to keep going. Kody begs Janelle for cash to dodge bankruptcy, but she says she can't trust him anymore. In what could be the most humiliating chapter of Kody Brown's post-split life, rumors are exploding across Sister Wives fan circles that the once proud patriarch, who for years flaunted his leadership, his financial schemes, and his alleged provider role, has been quietly begging his ex-wife Janelle Brown for a financial lifeline to avoid plunging headfirst into bankruptcy. Yes, The same Janelle who walked away from their plural marriage claiming she left with nothing but the clothes on my back is now, according to insiders, the person Kody is turning to for help as his financial empire allegedly crumbles. But here's the kicker. Janelle is reportedly not only refusing him outright, but she's telling mutual friends she simply can't trust him anymore. And the reasons for her icy refusal might just pull back the curtain on years of unspoken Brown family money drama. The whispers began when a well-connected source posted in a private Sister Wives Facebook group that Kody had been making calls to Janelle over the past month, trying to have a serious conversation about a short-term loan he claimed would help him bridge the gap while he liquidated some assets. Fans who've followed the family's financial history know exactly what that kind of language usually means: trouble with taxes, debt stacking up, and creditors knocking at the door. Add to that the ongoing expenses tied to the unused Kody Pass property taxes, upkeep, and the interest from previous loans, plus Robin's still mortgaged home in Flagstaff, and it's not hard to imagine why Kody might be sweating bullets over his bank balance.